Hey there! Welcome to Exposing the Hidden Reality. I'm Annette, career reinvention coach and caffeine-powered human.
And I'm Sandra, women's life and leadership coach. I bring the woo to our conversations.
And this is the podcast where we call out all the unspoken stuff, biases, outdated expectations, and all the things women navigate in work and in life.
Yes. We bring to light what we see happening. Smart, capable women stuck in the same patterns because no one really talks about what's going on.
We'll bring some difficult truths.
Welcome, insightful experts.
And sprinkle in a little chaos and fun.
It wouldn't be us if we didn't, right?
It's true.
So whether you're walking the dog or tuning in during your commute, we're glad you're here. Let's do this.
Let's do this. You want to do the let's do this together? Like 3, 2, 1, let's do this. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. Good morning, everybody. I guess we're doing this thing today. And Sandra and I are super excited to welcome Shayna Bergman joining us today, talking about parenting and what that kind of looks like in an everyday corporate job, maybe not even a corporate job. So Shayna, tell us more about you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm Shayna Bergman, and I am an executive and leadership coach. And I partner primarily with parents who are in leadership roles, who are trying to navigate all the things that they're juggling between being a high achiever at work and navigating their home life and their kids and their families, and really helping them figure out how to find what their version of success looks like so that they can feel more fulfilled, to feel a lot more ease in their lives day to day.
Is that possible?
It's a good question. And honestly, Sandra, I believe it is. I believe it is because I've done it myself. And I see clients do it every day. But I think there has to be the belief that it is possible in order for somebody to step into what it can look like. But as you can imagine, a lot of people feel like, how is that even something I could ever do? And so they just agree to, I guess this is just life. And then life is just fine.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think it also requires that we reframe success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree.
How have you seen your clients do that?
So that's one of the first things that I do with them is to redefine it. And as you can imagine, when I'm first meeting somebody, I still get the performative business person who tells me all the definitions of success that you find in the dictionary, or the ones where you see on social media, or the vision of, Susie from accounting who's doing it all perfectly and is head of the PTA and bakes fresh cookies every day and is also, number one in her team. And so they have sort of disconnected from what success is for them. And when we start to build that rapport and really peel back the onion, they start to realize, gosh, this isn't exactly what I want for myself. And so we do things like going through what are their values? What would success look like if nobody was watching them? And when they start to redefine it, all of a sudden they get clarity. And usually there's a lot of disconnect and misalignment with what they're doing or how they're doing it. And we start to say, okay, what does it look like? And it's like, once we sort of open up that door, all of a sudden there's some possibility that they can see for themselves because they've never really thought about it before.
And I'm wondering, before I let Annette jump in here, I'm wondering if you find that is challenging from a for women, if it's challenging from the what are people going to think? How am I going to explain this? Why did I go to school all those years? And I mean, I could go on, but I'm just wondering what you see.
100%. Yes. Because with women in particular, especially if they've become parents, they have often disconnected from who they are. Yes. And I think that's a normal thing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's normal. It's like all of a sudden you start pouring into your family and you lose a little bit of who am I and who have I become and who do I want to be? And because of that, and because there's so much And I love this, but there's such a tribal mentality, I think, with women that I think we can't it's natural for us to say, what's going to be the impact on others? What are they going to think about me? What does this say about me? Gosh, I put all this investment into my education, into my career. How can I just step back and change it? What does that mean about me? Did I fail? And so there's all these questions that start to come up. And so part of what I do with them is start to play with removing some of the judgment and also playing with different perspectives. Because sure, there's one perspective that somebody's going to say, what were you thinking? Are you crazy? And then there's another perspective where somebody says, I'm so jealous. How did you do it? Tell me, I want some of that. And I've lived that. I've personally lived that experience. So I know exactly, not exactly, but very close to what they are going through with having sort of an identity change that happens, and how powerful it is, and also how confusing it can be, and how untethering it can be in some ways, in order to really become so grounded in who you are and back in touch with who you are. But sometimes that means stuff gets disrupted. And that sometimes is a scary piece, is that you start to unravel things that you got really connected to because you thought that they mattered, and you've changed over that time. And now things look a little bit different.
Yeah, I think that's a very healthy way to help people shift their perspective. And what I heard you talking about a few minutes ago too was expectations and comparison.
Mhm.
Those seem to be the things that keep us stuck and not really sure which way to go next. So how do you advise parents to let go of those two things that maybe aren't serving them, but maybe are really keeping them in this bad place of like, I have to be like Susie's mom and bake cookies every day, or I have to be like this person at work who seems to have it all together and leaves on time and still gets good results and seems to have a happy family.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we talk about all that stuff, right? There are reasons why somebody's drawn to Susie, right? There's reasons for that. And so we talk about, what is it about that you like? How does that speak to the things that are important to you? Or is it that you like that because you've been told that that's what you should like? And so when we can start to ask that question, a lot of people have this like, wait a minute, I hate baking. I don't want to be that person. Or wait a minute, I want to be at my kid's baseball game. I don't want to be the last one in the office, even though I have been and I've gotten all these accolades for it. That's really not that important to me. And we place so much power in our bosses and in our corporate jobs, and it becomes our whole identity. And it's like, sometimes I have to help somebody step way back and like zoom way out and say, okay, hold on a minute. You're giving away everything to this person who, at the end of the day, really doesn't matter that much to you. You might not even like them very much. And so what does it look like for the people that really matter to you and for you? And yes, the person next to you might do it differently, and that is okay, because their value set is maybe different than yours, and that is normal. And when we can normalize, like, we're not all the same. We're not all cookie cutters. There's a baking analogy here somewhere with lots of this, but we're not all cookie cutters. And so how is it that you can redefine who you are and start to love yourself for that? And it's natural to have that little inner critic. I talk about the gremlin that comes out, that little voice that says, who do you think you are? You're not good enough. Why do you think you can be like that? You're never going to have that. And we listen to that, and that becomes our inner monologue. And when I point it out to somebody, and we do a lot of work on that piece, by the way, it's like over, some time, they start to realize, wow, that is what's running the show, and it's not me. And if I can start to turn the volume down on that voice and listen to who I am, all of a sudden I start to give myself permission I never gave myself before. And when they start to step into it, even just a little bit, they start to be like, ooh, that felt good. And it's like the littlest shifts sometimes have the biggest impact. And then they're like ready to go. But it takes time to get there.
Yeah, it really does. And what would you advise for other parents or non-parents even in the office trying to support maybe newer parents or parents with a new addition, right? Because I'm assuming going from 1 to 2 is a big shift, going from 2 to 3 is a big shift, 0 to 1. How can we be more supportive of each other at work?
Yeah. I mean, look, I very much believe this has to be customized. We have a lot of one size fits all programming and policies, and it's just not sufficient for everybody's individual needs. And again, I've lived it myself, but now that I have this breadth of awareness because of the number of people I've supported in a number of industries and businesses and roles and titles, all kinds of stuff, as you can imagine, different personal circumstances, it has made it very clear to me that this, we all do it this way, or, look at how one person's doing it and model that, just does not work. And I think there's some reality here, which is I think unless somebody has lived experience, it's very hard for them to understand really what somebody's going through,
Sure.
because people have their own judgments and their own realities and their own situation. And we have to remember it doesn't all look the same and it doesn't all feel the same for everybody. And this is where empathy comes in, right? It's the ability to put yourself as much as you can in somebody else's shoes. And I think we need to do a better job, honestly, at relying on people to be adults. And if they are able to get their job done, whatever that looks like, in the way that it works for them, whether it's at home, whether it's in the office, whether it's at 2 in the morning or 4 in the morning or 6 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock, it doesn't matter. As long as they're getting it done, I think we need to step way back and have a lot more flexibility for what people need. I was talking to a client yesterday and she was saying, all of a sudden, her dad is very sick and in the hospital. She's got a child who's got some mental instability. And so between those two things, she can't show up at work the way that she normally would. And that's not who she is. She wants to be a high achiever, but there's realities going on. And so she needs some flexibility that somebody else who's not in that situation might not understand. And she feels very stressed about having to articulate all of this. It's like, it's very personal and very private for her. And she's still figuring out who she is navigating all of this stuff. And so I feel like I would just want to, sometimes I want to shake leaders. And luckily I get to with some of them, the ones that I work with, and say, you've got to be realistic with what you're expecting of people. And if you've got somebody who wants to be there and who is engaged and who is a high achiever, then let them do life in the moments that they need to do life, and know that they're going to have their own guilt happening anyways, and they're going to feel terrible about it. And if you can support them through it and ask, what is it that we can do to support you? How can I pull people in to give you the time and space that you need? It will keep those people there for the long run. They will work harder for you. And I think this is where a lot of people feel like, well, there's a bottom line. We can't just let everybody willy-nilly do what they want to do and, work from their jammies at home. And the reality is, yes, there's going to be moments where that is going to be necessary. But if you stop looking at the day in front of you and you look longer term, this is where you get people that are loyal and who are engaged and who bring other engaged people, because you help see them through life, and life happens. We can't stop it. And so we've got to do a better job supporting it. You guys can see I get fired up about this piece.
I do as well. And I would say that when, to your point about flexibility and allowing people to do life, what often comes up are the examples of the people who aren't engaged, of the people who are taking advantage because they need to be performance managed rather than given flexibility. So we're not talking about avoiding performance managing people who need support getting into a role that is a better fit for them. We are talking about people who are excelling at their roles and contributing to the company, but need flexibility because of a situation that's happening.
I couldn't agree more. I agree 1000%.
Yeah. And I also agree that there's these black and white printed policy manuals that don't always support decision making like this that we're talking about. So how can we, as leaders, as people that are going through something, when we're done with whatever that is that we've gone through and we're on the other side, how can we make or influence those decisions?
Absolutely.
Those policies. Yeah.
We got to speak up. We got to speak up, because I think that there is, this misnomer that flexibility looks a certain way. And if we have now lived through it, especially, we've got to be able to speak up. And I think part of that is also in training and coaching people how to be good listeners and how to really see somebody, because no matter how much we believe in it and we fight for it, the reality is people are really bad at managing. They haven't seen it done well. And we don't equip people with those tools and those skills. We don't give them those soft skills. We give them a lot of technical, and that's great. And that's impactful in some ways. But if we can't retain our most important asset, which is our people, and we can't see them through the things that they're going through, then we're really not doing a very good job. And so what I would say is, like, I think that's where we need to be putting a lot more time and energy and investment, is how do we equip people with some of the very basic tools of how do you listen, and how do you hear what somebody's going through, and how do you hear what they're saying and what they're not saying, and how do you acknowledge what they're going through even if you can't understand it, and how do you support them? And to your point, Sandra, how do we also let them know that there are still performance expectations? And that's okay. Nobody's saying that that goes out the window, but to your point, when people are in need of that, it's there, and that happens in a different timeline than when there's something personal going on. But when you've got somebody who's a star performer, and again, I think I'm optimistic, but I think most people want to do well, and you give them the space that they need in the moments that are hard, I think that you see a whole new type of person emerge. But I think we've got to, it starts with anybody, but I think it starts at the top. I still really believe that we've got to stop sitting back and saying, oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's pass it off to somebody else. And instead say, how can we get our people equipped with how to really listen?
And I think one of the challenges, especially as a middle manager, is that we're not often supported. So even when we want to do the best we can for our team members, even when we want to impact the system, there is still a system. And sometimes we're strapped in terms of what we can and can't do.
Yeah, it's the messy middle. It's the messy middle, and it's really hard. And I think people feel very ill-equipped in that place because they feel like they can't really influence. And I'll tell you, when I was leading a team, when I was working in corporate and I was leading a team, I had a saying on my team that I started, which was called "Today Me, Tomorrow You." And the idea, and I believed I had an amazing team. But the reason for that saying was because I knew that there were going to be moments, and we had seen them, where somebody needed to say, I'm out today. I've got something going on. It's personal. I got to go. I just got to run. I got to deal with it. And it was like, go. Somebody's going to jump in and handle it. You're fine. And it meant the next time when somebody else needed that help, you would jump in for them. And it was like no questions asked. And I know that that's, again, I had an amazing team to work with, but even them knowing that that was there for them made them work harder, because they knew, when there's a moment I'm going to have and I need to go take care of my sick kid, or I've got to go run to something unexpected, or my plumbing is messed up, somebody's going to jump in and handle it. And it's like that relieves so much stress of what's going to happen. I need to be the one to do the thing. And it's like, we made it work. And so I think that trying to figure out what are ways that each individual can implement, even if it's small on their team, it starts small. It doesn't need to be that you're at the top and you have to be the one with the voice. You can have your voice in your own little way and start to sort of watch that ripple effect happen. And actually that did on the team I was on. It started with my team, but then it spread to others because they were like, we want to do what that team's doing. And that was my way in one of those moments to try to influence.
Yeah. I am struck by often, again, because I grew up in IT, right? I'm struck often by how we need so-and-so to be here because they're the ones who know how to fix the problem. Yeah, well, you know what? So-and-so could not be here tomorrow for a lot of different reasons. Not any of which have anything to do with the fact that, they've got a family issue. So we need to figure out, how do we do the work without so-and-so here? Not just to give so-and-so time to do what they need to do, but to develop the people. And because oftentimes, especially on the infrastructure troubleshooting side, which is the side that I was on, it's not until you see the situation that you figure out how to fix it. And we don't often want to take down whole networks just so that we can see what the problem might be and how people might want to fix it.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and you're reminding me, of somebody I spoke with actually yesterday, a client of mine, and he was saying, I'm the only one that does what I do. And so when I go on vacation, my job doesn't happen. And so I come back to this insane storm of stuff and people are upset with me. And I just took a vacation. He's like, imagine even just when I need to take a day because I've got something going on personally, I can't. Nobody else does what I do. And we had to have a really hard conversation. And this is where what I'll say is a little controversial, but this is where you put up a boundary and you say, I'm going. And if you don't have the infrastructure in place to support me, that's not on me. I'm sorry, but if you believe that vacations are important, that's one of the things that he believes in flexibility. If you believe that and you're at a place that can't support that, then you're at the wrong place. And it is okay to say, I am still going. And when I come back, I will catch up as best I can. But you can't be upset with me that something didn't happen when you've never given me any backup. And so sometimes like we have to be able to speak up for this kind of stuff and say, this isn't working. And so I need help. I need support and be able to stand in that and recognize it might not be the right happy home if you're not willing to just work all the time because that's what they've set up for you. And I know that's, hard to say, especially in an environment like this, but there is some reality to it too that we have to face and stop showing up because this guy, he came back and he said, I was having heart palpitations. I'm like, it is not worth it. It's just not worth it at that point. And so this is when it's like, you got to speak up. You got to say something now.
This is exactly why Annette and I work together doing this specifically, right? Because sometimes it's, I need to change, right? Sometimes it's the system needs to change.
Yeah.
And, trying to figure out which way, and sometimes it's both, right?
Yes.
So trying to figure out, how best to support the individual. Maybe it's, yes, you're doing some things right, and I want you to talk to my friend Annette, who can help you find the right place in which to do that. Or sometimes it's, you know what, you need to find a great spot to work, and I'm going to send you to my friend Sandra so that when you start up, you're starting up without all that baggage from the last place.
I love that. And thankfully, we have people to do this stuff, right? It's like people think that they have to figure it out all by themselves.
Yes.
And there are experts here to help you. Right? You're not alone. And this is what we navigate every day, right? And so to be able to help people find this better life for themselves, this better version of themselves, this better fit for who they are, like what a gift. I wish everybody would take advantage of it because it's like you're not alone. And I know even for my own leap, I hired a coach. Like I knew the tools and I still needed somebody to help me make it happen because it's just, you can't see your own eyebrows. It's like you need somebody to hold up a mirror and really help you.
Yes. Yes, I love this.
That is so true. And I think that it also shines a light on the kind of person we are at work and how we find ourselves surrounded. So for me, exactly like Sandra was saying before we even hit the live button today, that she tended to be a people pleaser at work. And I didn't know there was any other option, right? Somebody else is paying you to do something. And then you're like, oh, I have to make it perfect. I have to make it right. I have to make it just as they want, knowing that those things are nearly impossible. And then the realization that, okay, if I don't push back, things are never going to change here. And then if I push back and things still don't change, that recognition, like you were saying, Shayna, that I'm not in the right place. And now I have to make another plan for myself. And that place is going to exist outside of you later. And it's either going to fall apart. And also that's not your fault because they haven't supported themselves. They're counting on people, not systems, not processes, not culture, to help them stand up in the long term. So yes, please go ahead, take care of your family. If you're a caregiver for children or for your parents or for other family members, you have to do the thing. That's really what's important at the end of the day. It's why we work.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I mean, look, and also as a recovering people pleaser too, and I help a lot of people through this myself. It's very hard, right? It's tricky. And I think people feel like this is my livelihood. I'm supporting my family with this. And there's a lot of stories that we tell ourselves about how we have to be to maintain a job.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Like I remember even in my own story, starting to find my voice towards when I eventually decided to leave. But I started to find my voice. And I remember thinking like, I felt at that point I didn't have anything to lose because I was sort of planning on exiting anyways. But when I found my voice, it was interesting to see who listened and who was willing to play with me in the space of banter instead of just me saying, yes, I agree, which I was really good at for a really long time and very successful that way, which is alarming. And who would say it's my way, and learning for myself to recognize I wasn't always going to influence. I wasn't always going to get what I wanted. And people are allowed to say no, and that's okay. And not making it mean anything about myself.
Mm.
And it was interesting to sort of find my own power in that it really, to be fair, it took me knowing I was leaving to find that. Things have changed now, and now that's a skill I've honed and I'm good at. But it took a little bit of time. And I think we have to remember, like, we wrap ourselves up in making meaning of things and being told no, or we believe that we're successful because everybody loves us because we say yes to everything. And it's like, is that who we want to be? I look back at some conversations in my career and I'm like, man, I did not stand up for my team in that moment. I didn't stand up for myself in that moment. And not that I have regrets, because I think it got me to where I am, but I can look back now with different eyes and say, like, that wasn't the right way to handle that. And I wish I knew what I knew now to handle those types of situations.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think I'm picking up on something you're putting down, which is having options, right? Creates a safety net.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we don't have those options, right? And so standing up might be, I could lose this job, right?
Absolutely.
And I have no place to go,
Mhm.
and I have a family to feed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I talk a lot with my clients about choice. Our goal is to get to conscious choice. Like, you want to always be at the forefront of every decision you're making. You want to be, in active mode versus reactive mode, and always being intentional with the choices that you're making. And I realize that is that's a high standard to set. So we're not always going to be there, but the goal is to try to be there as much as we can. I believe in my heart, and my clients know this about me, I believe there's a lot of choices available. It's just that sometimes it takes somebody to help you realize what those could be and help you find them and see them. And even clients that I have who are trying to, I'm thinking of one in particular, like, she's trying to grow where she is currently. She's really high level, but she's trying to grow there, and it kind of hitting a ceiling at this point. It never dawned on her just to look externally, because she didn't believe it could be any better than what she has, even though it wasn't quite right. And now she's been having interviews and coffees and conversations and lots of stuff. And she's like, my eyes are so open. Like, I had no idea that this whole world existed. And it's like, yeah, it's been there the whole time. You just got to go explore and find it. And so I think we need to remember that it doesn't have to just be one way. And even though that might be what we've seen and all that we know, there's a lot of other ways to do things. And I fell into it too. I mean, I look back and I was like, well, I guess this is it. I've checked all the boxes, and, like, I'm super successful. And I guess I did it. This is what it looks like for people. And it was like, only when I stepped out of it was I like, whoa, there's a whole other world that I didn't realize existed, because nobody really had shown it to me. And I wasn't able to dream it up myself on my own. But I think if I could, like, hand people one thing, it's like, you are not stuck. There are so many different avenues you could go down, so many different choices, but you got to be intentional about really seeking those out and partnering and figuring out what you need to try to see what those could be for you.
There's this great little book. It's pink and white. And I think Annette might have a cover or a picture of it.
She's got it here somewhere.
It's a fabulous little book that talks about
this is my book, Shayna. She's like giving me a little plug here.
Oh, I love it.
So look at what I have highlighted here. But yes, right? Because what we talk about all the time, Shayna, when it comes to jobs is the transition, right? I'm getting out, I'm getting a new job, but really that's like a blip on the radar of your career. You'll change jobs, I don't know, every 3 to 5 years. If you're lucky, if you find some place to hang out for 3 to 5 years. But what are you doing in the in between, the every day of the 3 to 5 years in between the changing? And that's the piece that people don't really put a lot of thoughtful consideration into. And that's the piece where you can really grow, where you can build your network, where you can continue learning, where you can continue fueling. And instead of operating from a place of fear, like, oh, is AI going to take my job? I'm so sick of that question. And you can instead say, what can I learn about AI? How can I use it? How can I get on the forefront of this movement that's happening and evolve my career and do something different, make different choices? We're back at choices.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And this is, I mean, I lived this, when I started
Yeah.
to have that little whisper of like, I think there's something else that I want to do, which was not new for me. It was just all of a sudden it became very like clear it's time.
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself one night, like, how am I going to get from here to there? Like, there's no way. I can't do that. I can't leave this cushy corporate life and start my own thing. Am I insane? And it was like, I kind of had to like, use the tools that I had and be like, what is the first step? And it
Mm.
was like, okay, I took that step. What is the next step? And before I knew it, in a year, I resigned. I started my business. It was successful from the beginning, but it's because I was doing a lot of work between that time. And when I truly look back, it wasn't just in 1 year, it was over many years.
Yes.
But as that was happening, I was evolving to become ready to be the person that was going to leave my corporate job and start my career. But it wasn't going to happen overnight. And so I think you're absolutely right that there's a lot that happens between now and what we see as our future. And rather than saying, well, I guess I'm just stuck and I can't get to there, it's like, what is just one little step that gets me closer? And as you do that, you are evolving and changing and you're becoming the person that you want to be. And what's the next step? And now you're closer to that person. And then one day you wake up and you're like, wait, I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing that seemed so impossible before.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And everybody's cheering you on. Everybody that knows you and loves you and has helped you along the way is being like, I always knew you had it in you.
That's it. That's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. And why do
Mm.
you think that parenting or making the choice to become a parent is one of those big aha moments that multiple people have?
You mean like actually deciding I want to have children, that component?
I think, yes, deciding I'm going to have children, but then also once you have these little people in your lives, then their eyes are open to like, ooh, is this the job that's right for me? Or, ooh, are these the friend groups? Are these the people that are going to support me? I feel like most of the women that we talk to here on the show, Shayna, have this life-changing event. Sometimes it's a health crisis, sometimes it's the death of a loved one, many times it's parenting. So what do you think about parenting in particular makes people to say, I'm going to do something different and now's the time?
Yeah, I mean, look, before you have kids, it's really easy to be like, it's all about me. I'm going to give everything to my career and like I can go to every happy hour and I can network all the time and I can go golfing on the weekends with my colleagues and like it's great. And that's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. And once you have little people or a little person, things change. Your priorities change. And I do think it's very hard to really understand that until you've lived it in many ways because you can't really understand that feeling of like your heart walking around outside of your body until it's happening, even though sometimes you get real mad at those little hearts, but sometimes it's like, they're your little people. And so I know for me personally, I can only share my own experience, but it's echoed a lot by a lot of my clients. It's just all of a sudden the priorities are shifting. And so what used to be very easy to say yes to at work without question, now I have to decide in every moment, well, if I say yes to this, I'm giving up dinner with my family. Or if I
Mhm.
say yes to this, I'm giving up sleep and I know that I'm already going to be up in the middle of the night with a baby. And so all of a sudden you're sort of faced with a reevaluation of what's important to you. And that's a very weird and eye-opening experience to go through because you can't expect what it's going to feel like until you're in it. And it's different for everybody. I remember somebody said to me before I had my kids, he said, your whole life is going to change and you're not going to want to work again. And I was like waiting for that day and I was like ready to get back from maternity leave as quickly as possible. Like I wanted to work. And I also realized I can't go at the same pace I was going at before. And
Mhm.
that really shifted, and I had to, like, go through my own, metamorphosis of, like, am I still gonna be, like, loved here? Am I still gonna be successful if I have to leave at a certain time? And I wanted to. It's not that I didn't want to go home and be with my kids, I did, but I went through a lot of, like, how am I gonna manage all of it? And as you can imagine, I hear this story every single day. And so I think it does really kind of like open your eyes in a way that's very abrupt because your identity has shifted too. And I remember there were moments, and I have heard this from so many clients too, where it's like you're having a conversation with somebody at work, and it's almost like you have to put the fact that you're a parent away. And I
Mhm.
never liked that. And I really, looking back, realized I was doing a lot of that to myself. But to be fair, the system also required that of me in some
Mhm.
ways, where it was like, you need to not be in mom mode because we're here at the client. And I don't care that your kid is sick. you got to be on right now. And it's like, meanwhile, the school is calling saying like your child has a fever and come pick them up. That's a really tough decision and a tough situation to be in. And so I think some of it is just there's some reality here that happens. And to be able to say it is hard. And I'll tell people all the time, and I'm in it myself, this is a season of life. It's not always going to be like this. And there are going to be hard moments. I don't want anybody to be under the illusion that like it's all easy and like you go through this, process and you come out and everything is easy. Of course, that's not the case. We're human. But what meanings are we adding to these situations? What stress are we adding that doesn't need to be there? Where are we not speaking up for what's important to us in a certain moment? And so when we can start to get very clear, we apologize a lot less. We guilt ourselves a lot less. We start to understand the decisions we're making, we're okay with because we're at choice with them and we've been thoughtful about them. And so I think it just does require like this up leveling of who you are and really like facing what is really, really important to you, because now you've got this other component to your life that is incredibly powerful and incredibly influential on who you are. And we can't just ignore that that's there. And look, I think there are certainly situations where you get help and you get people to jump in, and everybody's different in what they need. And no two stories are alike. And so we can't say just because I did it this way, it's going to work for you too. And I got a lot of that. And so I think it is this just sort of reawakening and this need to revisit what is most important to me and how do I want to show up, as an employee, as a parent, as a friend, as a spouse, as a partner, whatever it may be.
Yeah. I'm sure Annette will be right back. And while you're talking, I was smiling because have told this story a couple of times, and I remember saying it just a few episodes ago. I got a phone call from my neighbor, who was the school nurse, but I didn't know she was the school nurse. And I'm driving to work. Or well, rather, I didn't realize my neighbor was a school nurse. So I was talking to the school nurse, not realizing it was one of my neighbors. So anyway, I'm driving to work and she calls and she says, your daughter's here in the office. She's really upset. She would really like you to come pick her up. And I'm like, do you think you could just give her a hot water bottle? Maybe, let her kind of hang out there. Is she like throwing up? And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, because I got to get through this next meeting and I can't pick her up until noon. And I mean, that's insane when you think about it. Like there's this 7-year-old who's like, all they want is a big hug from mom. Right. And my priority in that moment was, I got to go deliver this presentation. And a part of me just sat there for a moment and said, is this the role model that I want my daughter growing up with? Mm-hmm. And, once I made that decision, it was like, I need to do different because I can't tell her one thing and show her something completely different.
Mm-hmm. That's so powerful. And that hits so much in my heart too, because I have very much been there.
Yeah.
And, I look back at those moments and I don't know that I even have regret, because I think I learned through them. I think I needed to go through that to get the clarity on, ooh, that didn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes you just don't know until you live it. And I think there's also sometimes a reality of right now, I'm going to choose the meeting. This meeting is that important. My kid's going to be okay. And I'm going to be there in an hour. Right. And I think sometimes we have to give ourselves grace that there's nothing wrong with us as a parent, as an employee, for picking and choosing in each moment. And that's why I talk a lot about how I don't believe in balance. I don't believe that exists. And like, I am sorry to everybody who writes books and articles about it. In fact, I'm not sorry. That's what I believe, because I think it sets us up for thinking that we have to have that figured out and that we always need to be able to, pick the right thing in the moment. And it's like every moment's going to demand something different. And I look back at moments where my kid was at school a little longer sick because that meeting was really important to me that day. And it was like, they weren't waiting forever. Nothing was, terribly wrong, and then there are moments where I was like, screw the meeting, like that. Somebody else is going to have to figure out I'm going to get my kid.
Right.
And sometimes I made a mistake and I look back and I'm like, oh, I think I didn't choose right in that moment. And okay, now I know next time how I feel and what I'm going to do differently. And so I think we
Absolutely.
have to remove some of like that heavy judgment we have on ourselves, but I think we all can relate to your story, Sandra, because as you were saying it, I feel it. Like I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I choose to tell it, because for me, it's like it takes me back to all of those feelings and all of the shame that we place not just on ourselves, on all women, right? Why did you make that decision? You should be embarrassed. You should be ashamed. You should have picked something completely different. And it doesn't matter who you're talking to, they always have a different opinion. You should have picked the meeting, or you should have picked the kid, or you should have picked, something totally different, or you should have. And I think, in my situation, we don't have family in town, right? So it's not like I could have called somebody to step in for me. It was me or my husband, and who's got the bigger meeting today, who can afford to actually take the day off work because their boss might be really upset with them. Like it was such, I mean, we were talking about it before we got on here. Heaven forbid there was a snow day 3 days in a row, right?
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, this is like, and of course this is all pre-pandemic. But I think we put a lot of pressure on women, and we shame them often for the decisions that they make.
No, I agree. I mean, and what you're describing was bringing me back to, my own stress through COVID. I mean, that was all of COVID for us, was who's got the bigger meeting right now, with our daughter in virtual kindergarten and my son in diapers. And we both have big, important jobs. And like, who's going to juggle what in what moment?
Right.
And it's like, you just feel like you're never doing it well. And I remember a friend said to me, why can't you just get help? And it was like, that is for our family. We don't want anybody coming into our house. We don't want to get sick. We can't afford to get sick right now. Are you kidding? And like, it was like, if, I remember saying to him, like, you think I haven't thought of like everything that we could do to leverage ourselves? Like, cause we also didn't have family in town. But I look back at those moments too, and I have to say, like, I think we did the best we could. It was not
Yes.
easy. And as hard as it was, and it was very hard and very traumatic in a lot of ways, and fortunately less so for us than a lot of other people,
Right.
it was what gave me the clarity to
Yes.
say, I don't want to do it like this anymore. I just
Yes.
I don't want to do this like this. And I'm so grateful for it, because it got me to where I am now, as hard as it was.
Yeah. And I think that happened for a lot of people during that time too. There was a lot of people shifting, living in alignment with their priorities and feeling so much better about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, we took so many walks as a family and explored little watering holes and so many things that just weren't the typical running from this to that to the other. Da, da, da. And we really hold on to that time as very precious in many ways, because it was just very sweet and sacred and simple.
Mm. Yes. I love that.
I think I know we're getting to the end here, but it would not be exposing the hidden reality, and it would not be Sandra if I didn't just, suddenly at the last 2 minutes throw in a brand new topic.
I love this
But
about you, Sandra.
I'm ready.
no, I think what we're highlighting here is we need to reimagine work.
Mm.
This system that we call work, that really grew up in the industrial age, just does not work for our modern families and our modern ecosystem.
Right.
I don't know how to do it, and I certainly am not the person to figure it out. I just know that we need to find more creative ways to reimagine what work looks like.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. There was an article that came out, I think it was yesterday, and it was that millions of women are choosing entrepreneurship in
Yes.
2025. Okay.
Yes.
And I remember I saw that article and I had such polarizing reactions at one time. On the one hand, I thought to myself, yes, go get it. Like, that's incredible. Go design your life, make it what you want. Like, this is what I live for. And at the same time, I was thinking, I can't believe that we haven't progressed enough that this is what people feel is their only choice that they have to do, because they don't think that they can make it work in the system that has been created. We still haven't grown. And it was like I had this like rage and, power all at one time seeing that article, because I think the system hasn't evolved. And I think even through COVID, where I was like, "Ooh, I think we're moving in this direction. There's something positive here." We've gone back even further. And I've seen it with every client I have. So I agree. And I think this is where, as much as I can be one part of hopefully helping people find their power and empowering them to speak up for what is important and speak up for what they need and who they are, and that is okay, that they are worth that. Like, I just want to give that to as many people as I can, because I believe that. And I believe that's what it takes to change the system, instead of just saying yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. And people are making that choice with their employment, with their all kinds of things, with their dollars, right? So that's how you speak up for yourself. That's how systemic change can happen. So yes, my pet peeve is when people say, people just don't want to work anymore. No, that's not true. They do want to work, but they don't want to be stuck in these ridiculous boxes that we've put around work. So they're making other options. They're hobbling together. They're doing 3 gig jobs, but they're happy because maybe they get to pick up their kids from school every day and they get to see them off on the bus every day. And that's more important. So they'll make little sacrifices now and then redefine what it means in a couple years. And so please, let's not say that people don't want to work anymore. They don't want to work for you, or they don't want to work in this ridiculous system that we've created. And that's okay.
Amen.
Amen.
That's a mic drop moment right there, Annette.
For sure. Shayna, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
Yes. So I am on all the socials. I'm in LinkedIn. My name's Shayna Bergman. I'm on the socials at Shayna Bergman Coaching. And then my website is shaynabergman.com. And I invite people to follow me and find me. I send out a weekly newsletter that people have said is incredibly helpful. It's really just like tips and tricks and tools and stuff that's, hopefully making somebody's day a little bit better as they lead as a parent and as a leader. And I also offer complimentary discovery calls. And really my goal in those is just to get to know somebody and help even give them a little something to feel a little bit further in their journey, even if they don't work with me. So people have found those very helpful. So please take me up on it. I want to talk to you. I want to help maybe get you on a, path that feels better. And I also have a freebie on my website for 5 ways to help cure your imposter syndrome, if anybody's interested in that as well.
That's good. That sounds like a great tool.
Yeah.
I love this.
Great.
So much fun getting to know you and having this conversation, which is so needed.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's a wrap on this episode of Exposing the Hidden Reality. If something hit home or made you snort laugh, tell us.
Seriously, we love hearing from you. Message us, tag us, or send us coffee. We love coffee.
And hey, leave a review. It helps more women find us and boosts our egos.
Which are fragile, suspiciously fragile.
True. All right, until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and if all else fails,
blame the dog.
See you next time. Wait, did we stop recording?
No, we're still here. You have to push the red button.
Red button. Cool. Just eternal podcast.
Bye.
Bye.